Hey, it's Jael from Cell Based Nutrition, and today we're talking about strength and chronic pain. So, I think it's important to affirm us that we are indeed strong. Living with chronic pain, chronic illness, complex health needs, disability, it takes a lot of mental, emotional, and physical fortitude to live this life with the cards that we've been dealt. We demonstrate our strength even when we're exhausted, even when we're dealing with fatigue, even at times where the pain is excruciating and soul crushing. And so, from a place of affirmation and coming from one of us, we are very strong. However, we know that this strength of ours can be weaponized. And the way that it can be used to silence us and further marginalize us. So, if we are considered, or if other people see us as too strong, then it reduces the amount of support that we get. It it can penalize us from a disability support and benefit system. It can penalize us in terms of reasonable adjustments at work. If we're seen to cope and we're seen to be strong, then it doesn't allow space for support. And then that can make our conditions worse in the long term because we are burning out because of this strength that other people seem to think that we have. Also, we can be considered so strong that our pain isn't believed just because we are able to push through or perform tasks, even if we're performing them a lot slower, even if we're not performing them at maximum capacity, even if they are causing massive amounts of stress and discomfort in our bodies. The appearance of us performing certain tasks can make people feel like you can't seriously be in pain all the time, every day, but you were just able to do X, Y, and Z. You can't possibly be in pain all the time. And this can be a tightrope of us having to perform disability, which is something I have had to do in the past, and it actually physically makes me sick. Or not being believed or being considered disabled enough. And either way, we lose. It's like a lose-lose situation. And although sometimes I feel like I keep harboring on about this is the dichotomy of living in an ableist world. You're either stripped of your agency or you're not given the support that you require. And what I want is a middle ground where we are believed, where we are given the space to demonstrate our capacity where we have it, and then we are given the support where we don't have the capacity. And that sounds like a really straightforward middle ground, but why does the world act like this is some sort of utopia for disabled people, where we can't just live the fullness of who we truly are? You know, I hated being ill at work. As you can see, I'm a bit of a girly girl. I love playing around with makeup and doing my hair and so on. And if I want to make a public appearance, even if, and it does, it takes me hours to get ready, because of the fatigue, because of the joint pain, because of the neuropathy that affects how I use my hands. But if I want to make a public appearance, this is something that I choose. And so the way you see me now is the way that I went to work. And being done up, made up, makeup, hair, clothing, and then having to ask for cover because you need to go to the hospital because you're having an active crisis at work. There have been two occasions in my teaching career where an ambulance had to be called to school. Admittedly, I have to take some responsibility for pushing through and going to work when I felt that a crisis was coming. But then people look at you and make an assumption based on the way that you look. You must be fabricating this. You couldn't possibly be in so much pain looking the way that you do. And so a lot of us who live with chronic illness who look well, this is the issue of having invisible illnesses. You know, it would be a lot easier if we had some sort of visible sign that something wasn't quite right with us physically. But then I'm sure those of you who, like me, walk with a walking stick, some of you may be on crutches, some of you may have, different types of walking aids, or even be in a wheelchair. Even people who are displaying disability visibly get questioned about whether they really need the support that people can see. You know, we've all read stories from other people with chronic illnesses and disabilities being questioned when we park in disabled bays, being questioned if they have like a disabled freedom pass, being questioned about disability benefits that they receive simply because they don't look like they're disabled or disabled enough. And so our strength is used against us in almost every single arena, and there's just very few places where we can just be without having to either justify ourselves or perform our disabilities. Being strong all of the time can also be very exhausting, right? Sometimes we take the fact that we're strong as a part of our identity, not wanting to appear weak or still wanting to demonstrate our strength. And there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but being the strong one always comes at a cost. Strength is often misunderstood in chronic illnesses, and the fact that we need to constantly appear strong, especially when it comes to maybe friends and family members. This performance of strength, if it's a genuine, just you being called strong, but in fact, you are just being you, then there isn't this additional effort that needs to go into it if it's just how you naturally are. But if you are, or if you find yourself performing strength, performing that you are okay, pretending that your symptoms are not as severe as they are, your fatigue isn't as severe as it is, your mobility isn't as limited as it is. This can leave you exhausted. It can leave you disconnected. And as I've spoken about in previous videos, it can leave you braced. That sharp intake of breath, you holding a position that you don't feel comfortable holding, or you're holding it for longer, when you just want an opportunity to just be able to be yourself and admit. And I don't want us to see this word that I'm about to use as a weakness or a judgment, but be able to just admit when life is lifing and it's a bit too much. Being able to admit when we're exhausted, being able to admit when we're tired, being able to admit when we don't have any more fight left in us, to be able to admit when our spoons are done and our social battery or our life battery has run out for the day, without there being judgment or questioning about why we're currently not able to perform in the way that we are either used to perform or other people want us to perform. When we are resilient, but that resilience is driven by endurance, so our adrenaline, our stress hormones, it keeps our nervous system on high alert. And then that drains us, right? There are surges of hormones that keep us going, whether it's adrenaline, noradrenaline, testosterone. At some point, our adrenals and our neurotransmitters are going to be like, we've been pushing through for a little while now. Are we sure we want to continue doing this? Are we sure we're not tired? We're tired. We're going to downregulate a little bit. There's going to be a crash coming. You're going to have to deal with this overexertion now or later. And then this is the dance that we have between rigidity and flexibility, the dance that we have between support and performance, and being strong and needing support. And this isn't saying that we need to give up or do less for the sake of it, right? For the sake of other people believing us. It's not about performing disability. And so if I'm not going to get the support that I need because I'm able to do these things, then if I stop doing these things, if I stop doing what I'm able to do comfortably, then people will see that I am truly disabled and put in support strategies. That's not how it works either. Because even when the world can see that people have additional needs, they don't really want to implement support strategies unless they're forced to. And we can just see that with how people behave on the bus when a person in a wheelchair user, wants to get on the bus. People who have their shopping or their prams and pushchairs, nobody really wants to move out of the way. You can see when people come onto public transport with walking aids, and everybody pretends that they're looking at their phone, or they close their eyes, or they're pretending to look out of the window, because nobody really wants to make space for people who are not able-bodied. So even when we perform our disability, that doesn't also mean that we're going to get the support that we need and we require anyway. So I guess this conversation is more about redefining strength in terms of our ability to adapt, um, our ability to regulate our nervous systems, and self trust in terms of knowing what our own limits are, knowing what our own boundaries are, developing the the words, the language to be able to ask for support and to put scaffolding in place when we need it, as opposed to this constant effort that we need to put into to not only managing ourselves but to manage other people. We are inherently strong, but strength a isn't an infinite resource, right? It's a finite energy. And there are times where we're not strong. And it would be nice if there was a safety net waiting. And so what I hope is that this conversation has given you some food for thought, given you the opportunity to think about where in your life do you not feel strong, and are there scaffolds in place to support you when you don't feel as strong as you normally do. And then on days or periods of time when you feel capable, is there flexibility in the support that you're offered, that people aren't doing things for you that you are happily able to do for yourself? It's so difficult having to manage yourself and other people, managing your own energy levels and your own mobility, and then other people's response to that. I think it's important for us in the chronic pain, the chronic illness, the complex medical needs, the disabled community, to have nuanced and grounded conversations about chronic pain, about fatigue, and about rebuilding our safety and our trust in our own bodies. There is probably many things that I have left out of this video. So if there are threads of conversation or nuance that I have missed or that you want to add to this conversation, please type below in the comment section. I really love reading and responding to your comments, and I read and respond to every comment that is left on my videos. I have been amazed that my words have resonated with so many of you. I am grateful that you are here. I thank you for being here. You are absolutely welcome here, and I hope that this continues to be a space where we can talk freely amongst ourselves in a place of no judgment, and a place that is curated for us and by us. So I'm Jael from Cell Based Nutrition, and as always, it has been lovely talking to you. Please like and subscribe and comment below. That really helps me drive engagement, and so more people can come and join these conversations. I want you to remember that your body is not broken and your cells are just undernourished. And I will see you in the next video.